I've worked in tech long enough to know that when Apple stays quiet for a decade, something big is supposed to come out the other side. Apple doesn't rush, and almost never ships half-baked ideas. Apple is a master of waiting until the product is inevitable. That was the assumption behind Project Titan. For 10 years, Apple poured money, talent, and attention into building a car. By some estimates, Apple spent over $10 billion on this effort. Thousands of engineers, multiple leadership resets, acquisitions, secret test tracks, rumors that never quite went away, and then quietly, it ended. We just saw a report that Apple had killed the project and reassigned the team to AI. At first sight, this looked like a simple failure for a hard problem in a tough market. Tesla is dominant, regulations are brutal, end of story. But the more I dug deeper at Project Titan, the clearer I became that it wasn't bad timing or bad luck. More like a fundamental mismatch between how Apple works and what building a car actually requires. So let me tell you what I found. Apple is the best company in the world at vertical integration, so they can design the hardware, they design the software, they control the ecosystem, and they obsess over margins, supply chains, and user experience. You see, it's a beautiful concept and it works beautifully when you're shipping millions of identical devices every year. Cars are the opposite of that. Automotive is a low-margin, capital-intensive, heavily regulated, and full of edge cases that software alone can't smooth over. Decisions ripple through manufacturing, safety compliance, logistics, and long-term liability. You don't get to quite iterate quietly, like from iPhone 14 to 15. Mistakes are expensive and public. Apple underestimated that. Project Titan reportedly changed direction multiple times. At one point, it was a fully autonomous vehicle with no steering wheel. Then it became a more traditional EV. Then the autonomy goals were scaled back again. Leadership rotated, priorities shifted. The vision was never stable long enough to harden into a product, and that's deadly in hardware. In software, you can pivot and rewrite and ship updates. In cars, though, indecision is poison. Tooling decisions lock you in, supplier contracts lock you in, regulatory filings lock you in. Every reset burns years and costs billions. Tesla never waited for perfection. They shipped early and iterated in public and built a data advantage that compounds every mile driven. Traditional automakers leverage decades of manufacturing experience and accepted thinner margins to stay alive. So Apple had neither advantage. Unlike phones, there was no obvious Apple premium that consumers were guaranteed to pay. A car is not an iPhone, and loyalty doesn't go far when you are asking people to trust with their lives. There is a cultural issue here that people don't talk about. Apple is extremely risk-averse once a product nears launch. Apple's brand is this polished product with high reliability. That's Apple. But autonomy is inherently messy. There is no moment when self-driving is done. It just gets less bad over time, but never actually reaches zero. This concept clashes with Apple's DNA. Shipping a car that was anything less than magical would have damaged the Apple brand. Shipping one that overpromised on autonomy would have been worse. So the bar kept rising, and eventually, the bar became unreachable. At some point, someone inside Apple had to do the math. Even if Project Titan succeeded technically, the upside was limited. Margins would never be lower than what Apple is used to, and growth will be slower. Regulatory risk would be constant. One high-profile accident could undo years of goodwill. Compare that to AI. AI is pure leverage, software margins, cross-product integration, direct impact on every existing Apple platform. And unlike cars, Apple can move cautiously, deploy privately, and improve continuously without public scrutiny. So they pulled the plug. $10 billion is a huge number, but for Apple, the real cost wasn't the money. It was the realization that some industries don't bend to their playbook, that control, secrecy, and perfectionism don't always scale outside of consumer electronics. Project Titan failed because Apple tried to apply an iPhone strategy to a car problem, and that assumption broke. The interesting part here is what happens next. Apple left because the leverage just wasn't there. That tells you a lot about how they see the future. Less hardware risk, more software gravity. Project Titan never produced a car, but it was a post-nut clarity for Tim Apple. And sometimes, that's the most expensive lesson a company can learn. That's it on this video essay. The next video is on humane AI pins.